As the rain cascades down in heavy sheets, Avilio Bruno walks wearily towards his apartment, the weight of the soggy world pressing down on him. But before he could reach his home, the landlady intercepts him, her voice cutting through the downpour like a knife. With a hurried swipe, he snatches a letter from her grasp, his heart racing as he recognizes the name, Angelo Lagusa, scrawled across the envelope. Ignoring the damp chills seeping into his bones, he darts back up to his dismal apartment, where only a bed and a solitary chair offered respite from the dreary surroundings. Fingers trembling, Bruno tears open the letter, his eyes widening as they fell upon a photograph that sends a jolt of electricity through his veins. Venetti, he whispers, the word tasting like victory on his tongue, a wicked grin spreading across his face. Meanwhile, in another corner of the city, Corteo found himself engaged in a curious challenge from his friend Luz. Skepticism danced in Luz's eyes as Corteo boasted of his ability to extinguish a candle with his bare fingers. But when Corteo proved too fearful to try, it was Angelo who effortlessly quenched the flame, his cool demeanor contrasting with Corteo's flustered state. Amidst the mundane exchange, Elena, Angelo's mother, extended a gesture of kindness, packing cake and money for Corteo as he prepared to depart. Concern etched her face as she inquired about Corteo's mother, relief flooding her when she learned of her improved health. As Corteo bid farewell and mounted his bike, Angelo's parting words lingered in the air, a bittersweet echo of a life forever altered. Yet, as he navigated the shadowed streets, fate conspired to intersect his path with Testa Lagusa, Angelo's father, setting in motion a chain of events that would shatter the fragile peace of their world. In the dim light of Angelo's home, chaos erupted as Vincent Venetti, a harbinger of destruction, barged into their lives, wielding power and menace with his every step. Testa's futile resistance crumbled beneath the weight of Vincent's dominance, leaving Elena and Luz to face the unforgiving barrel of a gun. Angelo's desperate attempt to shield Luz from the horrors proved futile as tragedy unfolded in a flurry of violence. With each gunshot, Angelo's world crumbled, leaving him a silent witness to the carnage that claimed his family. In the wake of devastation, Angelo's survival instincts kicked into overdrive, propelling him into the safety of the night's darkness. Evading his pursuers with the skill of a hunted animal, he sought refuge in the only haven left to him, Corteo's doorstep. Tears mingled with apologies as Angelo sought solace in the arms of his friend, their bond cemented by shared sorrow. Yet as dawn broke over the charred remnants of Angelo's home, a grim reality set in, prompting him to disappear into the bleak unknown, a ghost in the snow. 7 years pass, marking Angelo's return to Lawless, a town steeped in the shadows of its past. But the passage of time had done little to dull the ache of loss that lingered in his heart. Carotto has a swig of Corteo's booze and tells him to pitch it to the Orco family. Corteo then tells him that he wants nothing to do with the mafia and proceeds to kick him out. Right by the door, Gatto comes in holding a bat. He asks if Corteo will sell them the moonshine, and when he says no, he kicks him in the stomach and destroys his mini brewery. Gatto is still destroying everything when Angelo shows up and knocks him out with a crowbar. They sit to chat, and Corteo admits that he never wanted to make moonshine for a living. He then asks Angelo where he has been for the last 7 years. Angelo corrects him, claiming that he now goes by Avilio Bruno. He convinces Corteo to join him as they sell the moonshine to the Orco family, pulling out the "We're brothers forever" line. Corteo folds, and they both scope out a sandbar called The Island, seeing as their product will sell more in a place like that. Unfortunately, it's too high class to let people like them in. They head into the island, and it's being run by Mr. Grancio. 2 men, Mr. Vano Clemente and Nero Venetti, try to sell him some booze, but he easily deduces that they swiped it from the Orco family. Just then, Angelo and Corteo walk in with their offer. Right outside, a mafia member known only as Fango asks Tigre, the driver, if they stole the booze in his trunk. He spits on his shoe, so Fango has Gatto punch the rudeness out of him. He then wipes his shoe on his face as Tigre confesses. In the bar, Mr. Grancio throws Angelo's drink away, but he simply attempts to pour him another glass. The man grabs our boy by the collar, but one of the booze thieves sets the glass of moonshine ablaze. Everyone is amazed, and as they sip on it, they confirm the quality. They begin negotiations, but by then, Fango has gotten to the door. Security tries to shoot his legs, but Serpente puts a knife to his throat and forces him to open up. Fango knocks out the security and announces that he has business with a Nero Venetti, son of Don Venetti. No one responds, so he calls Corteo forward and concludes that he's the one. This makes Angelo take his place, and he draws close enough to Fango to unhand his gun. He then places a knife so close to his throat that it draws blood. Fango thinks Angelo won't kill him, so he tells Serpente to take Corteo's life. Nero then throws a bottle at Serpente, distracting him long enough for Corteo to escape. Angelo does the same, and they all hide behind Mr. Granchio's bulletproof counter. As Fango rains bullets in their direction, Corteo prepares a concoction. He then instructs Angelo to throw a bunch of booze at Fango. He obeys, and soon enough, Corteo throws the concoction at Fango and tells everyone to head for the exit. As soon as the mobster shoots the concoction, he gets engulfed in flames. They all run to the car where they meet Tigre in bad condition. As they check on him, Gatto emanates from the back seat. They quickly knock him out and drive away. Corteo explains his concoction, and Angelo asks about Nero Vanetti. Suddenly, both thieves peel off their disguises, with one of them admitting that he's indeed Nero. Next, we see Tronco, a renowned cab driver, driving Mr. Vanno on a booze run one night, and keeps telling him of his dream to buy a Phantom when he makes enough money. Mr. Vanno promises to buy it for him if they survive more of these runs. They come across the police, and Tronco quickly parks the car in the forest. They break off some branches and disguise it from the police. They then hide behind trees until the coast is clear. After the cop car drives off, Mr. Vanno calls out to Tronco, but Serpente appears instead, wielding a knife and slashing away at the man. He hides beneath their car, but another vehicle comes to the scene. Its headlights reveal a slain Tronco and the presence of multiple Orco Mafia members. The mobsters then drive off with Mr. Vanno's booze and somehow don't get caught. The Galassia and Vanetti families throw a wedding party, and Nero mocks Vanno for clinging to the underside of a vehicle to survive. Angelo and Corteo then show up, just present Nero with a batch of moonshine as a party gift. Apparently, the Galassia family controls all of Chicago, and this means nothing to Vanno, who's still mad. He gets angrier when Angelo mentions that they lost some turf to the Orco family. Barbero, the Vanetti butler, tells Nero that his father needs his attention and gets introduced to Angelo and Corteo. After they leave, Corteo whispers that they came for the money and questions why Angelo didn't take it. He gets met with silence, so he opts that they leave the wedding celebration. Angelo believes otherwise. Inside, a sick Don Vanetti asks Nero how their playhouse is coming along. After he gives the stipulated time for completion, his younger brother, Frate, mentions the coming of Don Galassia. They discuss the impudence of the Orco family and how they still have to answer to the Galassias. Anyway, it's the reason why Nero's sister, Fio, got married to Don Galassia's nephew, Ronaldo. Nero interrupts his younger brother with talk of Tronco's death and points out that the family have no future if they can't protect their own. He then drops a jar of Corteo's moonshine and steps out of the room. Vanno is still in quite the sour mood. He stuffs his face with food and scowls in Ronaldo's direction as he touches on his new wife. Soon enough, Ronaldo approaches their table and disses Don Vanetti for staying indoors. He offers to solve their Orco problem but talks down on the Vanetti distribution routes. Because of this, Barbero has to hold Vanno from attacking him. Angelo shows up and insults Ronaldo to the extent that he tries to punch him. Of course, Angelo easily dodges. Vanno then grabs Ronaldo, only for the bride to break them up. As Vanno continues to stuff his face, Angelo shows up at their table and gives Barbero a taste of his liquor. The liquor gets him impressed, and the fact that Corteo makes it in his kitchen gets him a private conversation. Mr. Vanno then properly introduces himself to Angelo. Later on, Vanno makes dinner for himself, Barbero, Nero, and a bruised-up Tigre. They discuss Angelo, otherwise known as Avilio, and then Vanno asks if they'll kill off Fango. He's mad when he hears that Don Galassia wants the Orco family and theirs to make nice, so he promises to kill Fango himself. Nero comes up with a better solution. Vanno later presents Angelo with the chance to do it. He jumps at the opportunity to join the Orco family, so Vanno hands him a gun and some bullets. Fango is supposed to be at his mistress's house on Wednesday, and Vanno gives Angelo permission to kill her too. Soon after he walks away, Corteo begins to drill his friend for associating with men like that. He then hands him a letter from his dad's best friend, a letter stating that he wants to help Angelo get revenge, a letter stating the names of all the men to kill. On Wednesday night, Vanno pays off Serotto and Angelo pours some liquor on his jacket. He later walks out pretending like he's drunk, so Serpente shows up to rough him up. Serotto then distracts Serpente with the promise of a good time, so he leaves Angelo alone, thinking he's a drunkard. Afterwards, he sneaks into the building and picks the lock to Fango's apartment. Fango is getting whipped by his mistress when our boy shoots at him. He's lucky enough to dodge the first bullet and holds his mistress hostage soon enough. Fango reaches for his gun and taunts Angelo to shoot, but for some reason the boy hesitates, so Fango takes 3 shots at him. He's lucky enough to run into the other room, but Serpente catches wind of the ruckus. The shootout continues until Fango jumps off his balcony onto the roof of another building. Serpente then comes in at that point. He almost kills Angelo, but Vanno knocks him out first. He notices that Serpente's dagger is the same one that killed Tronco, and this infuriates him. Angelo quickly points out the danger behind a Vanetti killing an Orco, but the cops blare their siren at that moment. Both men then agree to meet at a cemetery in the old village. Afterwards, Vanno prays as he walks a tied-up Serpente to Tronco's grave. Upon sunrise, he gives him a chance to say his last prayers. Instead, Serpente begs for his life. Vanno then shoots him 3 times and does the sign of the cross. Apparently, Vincent Vanetti, Nero Vanetti, and Vanno Clemente were the men that killed Angelo's family. Immediately after Serpente's death, Angelo emerges from the shadows, shoots Vanno's abdomen, and tells him why he's about to die. He then fires the fatal shot. Angelo gets home later that morning to meet Corteo, still waiting for him. He begins to reiterate everything that happened, from how he killed Vanno to Nero, suspecting him of the murder. After Nero couldn't prove it, he asked Angelo to bring him Serpente's body. Yes, Serpente's body got missing somehow, and Angelo is surprised to find out that it wasn't Corteo's doing. Later on, Corteo pays Serotto a visit and asks him where he was the night before. His arrival had shocked the barkeep into shattering a glass, and his question puts him further on the edge. Corteo then tells him that Angelo is after him because everyone thinks he killed Vanno. Serotto blatantly denies this and pours himself a drink to calm his nerves. He begins to take money out of the counter in preparation to make a run for it. Corteo tries telling him that he can help if he confesses, but Serotto's answer remains the same. On the flip side, Don Orco is having breakfast with his members and hates the lasagna so much that he barfs it into the chef's cap. He then has his men drag the chef away as he begs for one more chance. At that point, Fango barges in and puts his leg on the dining table. He reiterates the attempt on his life and blames the Vanettis for it. Don Orco almost stabs Fango's foot with a fork. He gets asked why he thinks it's the Vanettis, and Fango's excuse is that it can't be anyone else. The Don then explains that the Galacias want them to play nice with the Vanettis. To top it off, he claims he can't start a war because Fango got a few scrapes. The foot soldier is pissed, so he announces that he'll do things his way. He then stabs Corvo's hand with a fork and asks if anyone has seen Serpente. When he doesn't get an answer, he walks away. Back to Corteo, after putting pressure on Serotto, he admits that he went with Vanno and Angelo to Fango's house, but had only given Serpente some booze. After the shootout, he hailed a cab and followed Vanno to the cemetery but had barely left the car when he heard multiple gunshots. Upon arrival at the scene, Serotto thought both men had taken each other out. Corteo then informs him that it looks like he killed Vanno and helped Serpente escape. At this point, Angelo comes out of hiding and threatens Serotto with his gun. This goes on until the barkeep confesses to selling Serpente's corpse to Scusa from the Federal Bureau of Prohibition. Angelo tells Serotto to take him to the body, and when they get outside, Nero and his men start their vehicle to follow them. On the flip side, Scusa meets with the Vanettis and tells them that he's with Serpente's body. He adds how news of it could spark a war. This pisses Ganzo off, and while he's lashing out at Scusa, Frate tries to bribe the officer. He shuts him down, but Ronaldo backs Frate up. Don Vanetti finally speaks and tells Scusa to first bring the body before they'll talk. Meanwhile, Fango is on his way to ask the Vanettis about Serpente when he sees Nero drive past him. Immediately, he changes his course and follows them. They arrive at an abandoned building where they pick the lock and step in to scope it out. Angelo hears footsteps, so he brings out his gun to check who it is. Nero then shows up. At the Vanettis, Nero comes up as a suspect and Ronaldo calls Vanno stupid for getting killed by someone he kidnapped. This pisses off Ganzo, so Don Vanetti tells him to calm down. Frate adds that Nero knew about Vanno's quest to avenge Tronco, and Ronaldo piggybacks on this to announce that the Galacias will get involved if nothing is done about it. Don Vanetti then tells him that he'll handle his son. After Ronaldo leaves, Frate suggests that they let Nero escape and lie to the Galacias about it. Meanwhile, Fango arrives at the abandoned building and meets Tigre sitting outside it. The Vanetti spits on Fango's shoe and on his face. Fango then threatens to burn his face with a cigarette butt. He takes Tigre upstairs at gunpoint and meets Nero with a gun pointed at a masked man. They drop their weapons and have both hostages walk in the opposite direction. Fango gets suspicious and pulls out a concealed weapon soon enough. Before he can shoot, Angelo kicks the gun out of his hand, swings a knife at Fango and gets kicked to the ground. He then peels off his mask, confirming Fango's suspicion. It becomes a shootout soon enough, but only Gatto gets shot in the arm. Angelo escapes through the window and the others through the door. As they walk away, Nero can't help but remember the indifferent glare Angelo had when they found Serpente's body. Meanwhile, Fango comes across the corpse and is excited about it. Gatto is sad though, but Fango cuts up his tongue as he quips that they can now go to war against the Vanettis. That night, Frate drives past his brother's vehicle and they find a quiet place to talk. He advises him to leave town immediately and Barbero wants to follow. Unfortunately, he's needed for the moonshine business. Angelo then offers to go and Nero agrees. Scusa sees his warehouse empty and immediately blames Serotto. The next day, they bury Vanno in Riverside Cemetery. The drizzling rain makes the mood sadder than usual, while Nero and Angelo watch from a distance. He sends Angelo away before dropping to his knees in tears. Afterwards, they both drive off to the countryside. At that same moment, a hired gun gets a call to eliminate both of them, so he gets his dog and a belt of machetes ready. Before Theo's wedding, Nero and Vanno had gone out for a drink. Vanno was mad that she was marrying someone she didn't love just because the family needed the connection. He then asked about Nero's relationship with Frate, and unsurprisingly, it's non-existent. Vanno passed out soon enough, leaving Nero to whisper that it's complicated. Present day, Nero drinks as Angelo drives under the rain. It's been a week since they started running. He's bored of how slow he's going, so he presses Angelo's foot on the accelerator. The assassin hired to take them out pretends to need a ride, but they obliviously speed past him and splash some dirty water on him for good measure. They stop by a restaurant for some pancakes, and the pretty waitress tells them that they can find cheap accommodation in Kota, a nearby town. Or better still, rent tents from Autocamp. Angelo suggests that they sleep in the car, but Nero doesn't want to hear it. They then leave, and Nero pays for breakfast and adds a tip for the pretty waitress. Meanwhile, their pursuer stops a booze merchant and gets spat on. The boys arrive at Kota Autocamp soon enough and almost run over the gate man. The camp is as serene as they come, with children playing and families coming together. They get carried away, watching a little boy struggle until he hits a piñata. As the kids pick up the candy, Nero quips that Frate used to be like that. He then talks to the Reverend Sister about putting on a show. He lies that his name is Marta and begins to juggle as the kids watch with rapt attention. Afterwards, they happily applaud him and then ask what Angelo can do. Nero already talks him down before the kids when Angelo steals his wallet. He then steals his belt and exposes Nero's underpants to the kids. This gives them a good laugh and they offer him candy for his services. For the first time, Angelo actually cracks a smile. Later on, they camp by the riverside where Angelo tries in vain to juggle some stones. Nero advises him to start with just one stone and talks about how Vanno was a better juggler than he is. Meanwhile, their pursuer had gotten himself a horse and takes another look at Nero's picture. Back at Autocamp, Nero tells a story of how he and Vanno wanted to see a circus act so badly that they stole his father's money to go. They had escaped Mass, and after they returned, Don Vanetti gave them the beating of their lives. He and Vanno continued to practice their juggling until it was good enough to show Fio and Frate. Nero then asks if Angelo is an only child, and of course our boy lies. He even claims that it was the reason he became a gangster. He claps back by asking what Nero's first job was, and the mobster confesses that they were 4 men who attacked a certain Testa Lagusa. He explains how they raided the house, and how he even shot at a kid who tried to escape. Angelo just looks at him with hatred but jokes about Nero becoming a penniless runaway. They both have a good laugh. As Nero sleeps, Angelo crouches over the fire with a letter in hand. He acknowledges that his father's friend had missed one person from the list. The next morning, they speed past the gate man again, and Nero finds this funny. They later stop to ask a cop called Nick about where to drink. He tries to enforce prohibition laws, but Nero bribes him. After he gives them directions to a drugstore, Angelo steals Nick's wallet. Meanwhile, their pursuer draws closer and spits on the face of someone asking him for help. They get to the drugstore and Nero calls Barbero. He gets warned that Orco sent someone who's practically a giant after him. All this time, Angelo is busy stealing supplies. Nero then bribes the lady at the drugstore and she lets him into the back. He asks the waiter to give him their hardest stuff and after a swig is not impressed. He asks for a follow-up, but the waiter wants a down payment first. Officer Nick stops Nero's pursuer and swipes all the money from his wallet. Soon enough, the officer notices some barrels on his carriage and upon inspection, realizes that he had forced a corpse into one of them. This Goliath then squeezes the life out of Officer Nick, making him confess that he sent Nero to the drugstore. This doesn't save his life though. Back at the drugstore, Nero is busy defeating some drunkards in arm wrestling. His pursuer then enters and smashes his hand against the barrel. He continues punching Nero until he's stopped by a direct kick in the groin. Angelo comes by to drag Nero out of there and he hits their pursuer with their car. Somehow he gets back up, but their vehicle refuses to start. Both men then make a run for it as Goliath trashes other people. That night, they find a barn and fortify it. Unfortunately, Goliath has a scent hound that tracks them down soon enough. As they wait for him to come through the door, he surprises them by bursting in through the window. He immediately begins to swing his knives at Angelo and easily knocks him to the wall. Nero then tries shooting at him, but bullets don't work. He tries using a rake, but Goliath easily cuts it down. Nero is saved by Angelo flinging canned good at their pursuer. Unfortunately, he becomes the new target. As he's about to dice Angelo, Nero returns the favor and stabs him in the back. Both men walk outside to see the owner of the barn pointing a gun at them. Angelo then dives with Nero as the owner shoots down Goliath. Afterwards, they both take his horse and drive into the night. Angelo and Nero stop by another cheap restaurant where the latter complains about the food. He later talks with Barbero on the phone and gets told that Orko wants to call a truce. Apparently, Fango has been rebelling and his efforts to snuff him out have failed. He holed up with 20 guys in the island and has been using it as his base. Nero announces that he'll come home right away, but Barbero wants to meet up before he enters town. They then agree to meet at the Portline Lodge in 2 days. Both men continue their journey and Nero drives with a smile on his face. He stretches his cigarette to Angelo and asks if he would like to join the family when they get back. Our boy hesitates and then grabs the cigarette from him without giving an answer. They head up to Portline Lodge and to Angelo's surprise, it's actually a moonshine brewery. There they see Barbero and Corteo. Apparently they needed his help to make better alcohol. Barbero hugs Nero as he welcomes him back. He then stretches a bottle of Lawless Heaven to him, announcing that it's getting a better price than their Canadian imports. Nero and Angelo then joke about who saved whose life. Later on, Angelo takes a swig of Corteo's booze and his friend solemnly asks him when he plans to kill Nero. It turns out that Angelo needs to first of all get as close to Don Vanetti as he can. Talking about the Don, Nero yells that it's about time for Angelo to meet him. Barbero warns Nero to be wary of Ronaldo, and after this, he and Angelo head out. Frate sees Tigre outside their family house and asks if Nero has arrived. When he gets a negative answer, he invites Tigre inside to share a bottle of good liquor with him. On the flip side, Angelo and Nero spy on Orko as he exits his restaurant. Nero notices that his guards are still too many for a man who called a truce. They head to the Vanetti house late that night, and Nero becomes conscious immediately they cross the gate. He turns off his headlights and tells Angelo that the men at the gate are not the regular guards. Soon enough, he sees Tigre raising his hand as he comes out the front and instructs Angelo to open his door. Our boy is confused. That's until people start firing shots in their direction. Tigre gets shot, but Angelo drags him into the back of their car. They then try to escape, but the gate is protected. An ally shoots the guards there and opens the gate for Nero. He then joins Tigre in the back. As they drive away, Nero introduces the ally as Volpe and explains that Tigre lifting his hand was the signal that saved his life. Don Vanetti and the others scold Frate for going behind their backs. Apparently, Orko agreed to a truce on the condition that they kill Nero. This infuriates the Don, and he asks why Frate would be willing to kill his own brother. Frate quips that his dad wouldn't be able to do it and that they need the Galacia's protection. As his dad tries to disprove this, Ronaldo walks in. As for Nero, he and the others stay holed up. Tigre is barely stable, but Barbero shows up with a change of bandages. He also reveals that Frate and Ronaldo are behind the attack and that every exit out of the city has been blocked. Ronaldo announces that Frate will now lead the Vanettis, and if they don't agree, only the Orcos will own the town. Ganzo tries to object to this, but Ronaldo remains calm. He then tells the Don that Nero still needs to die. Meanwhile, Corteo wakes up and sees Angelo outside. He suggests that they make a run for it, but Angelo is hell-bent on reaching Vincent Vanetti and the last unmentioned culprit. The next morning, they realize that Tigre may only last a day or two. Angelo then suggests that they seek help from Fango. This infuriates Nero, so he almost strangles our boy as he vows never to work with Fango. Barbero adds that he has no reason to help them. That night, Angelo leaves the room to go fetch some booze and Corteo follows him. Our boy then tells him that they are about to escape. They board a boat to cross the river, and Volpe tries calling them back. By the time he tries to shoot, they've become shrouded by the night. Upon crossing the river, they arrive at the shores of the island, and Angelo negotiates their entry at gunpoint. Mr. Grancio recognizes them, and so does Fango's mistress. Angelo hands Mr. Grancio a bottle of Lawless Heaven to apologize for the fire, and then asks to see Fango. He refuses to show them the way, but the mistress leads them. They see Sirotto along the way, and ultimately get to Fango's office. The mistress then whispers that she'll see Angelo later, if he makes it out of the room alive. Fango informs them that he knows that everyone is chasing them. Still, Angelo asks that he hides them, and even tells him about Tigre's condition. This makes Fango burst out laughing. He then points his gun at Angelo under the guise that they killed Serpente. Angelo doesn't move an inch, so Fango calms down and asks what's in it for him. Afterwards, Corteo returns to the gang and tells them that Angelo didn't betray them. Our boy is being held hostage, but he sends Corteo to fetch Tigre and the others. Barbero thinks it's a trap, but Corteo claims that they can take him hostage. Nero then vouches for Angelo and gets told of his plan to get rid Don Orko for Fango. Our boy had lied that Nero had a plan to get Fango what he wants, and Barbero suggests that he play along. Nero's stubbornness breaks when Corteo tells him that he's not the type to let a friend die. Nero and the team arrive at the island and wait downstairs for Fango. The mobster shows up soon enough, with Angelo going before him. He immediately asks Nero how he plans to get him Orko, but Nero asks to be fed first. As a show of strength, Fango asks Nero to lick his boots. He pretends to actually do it and then almost stabs Fango's foot. This makes the mobster laugh, so he orders his men to feed Nero. Meanwhile, Ronaldo and Frate discuss with Don Orko at the Ottimo Orko restaurant. They talk about Nero's situation, and Don Orko wants a piece of his moonshine business. Ronaldo promises to give it to him once Nero is caught, and then instructs the Don to reach out if he has any information about their target. As they walk away, Don Orko expresses his disgust about the way Ronaldo throws the weight of the Galassia name around. He later admits that they need to rein in Fango. Angelo and the gang are colluding by the bunk beds when word comes that Tigre will pull through. Barbero then confirms if Angelo has a plan to take down Orko, and he claims that he does. First, he tells Volpe to catch him a chicken. The next day, Nero and Angelo clean up nicely and head to Orko's restaurant. The guards pat them down and consequently let them in. Orko welcomes them sarcastically, but neither of them show any fear. They even sit to eat, and afterwards Nero jokes that he would have joined the Orko family just for their lasagna. The Don doesn't laugh for long before slamming the desk and going back to threats. Nero asks that he hear him out, but Orko doesn't want him to beg for his life. He blames Nero for ruining 40 years of friendship with Vincent Vanetti by stealing their booze. Nero doesn't seem very sorry, so the Don tells him that his last supper is over. Guns point in Nero's direction as Orko pours him a glass of a 30-year-old liquor. He takes a sip and then pours it out on the table. Nero replaces it with his own moonshine, gulps it down, and then refills it for Orko to have a taste. Despite his guard's warning, the Don gives it a try. He's so impressed that he empties his cup. Nero then offers to give him the whole brewery if he can provide them with a place to lie low. They drive to the lodge, but since it looks like a coal mine on the outside, Don Orko doesn't trust them. He sends one of his men to follow Nero, and another keeps Angelo hostage just beside him. They get talking, and Orko admits that it's sad that Angelo didn't finish Fango off. Our boy tries asking if it was the Don that sent him a letter, but when he realizes that it wasn't, he asks Orko to use him. Angelo goes as far as telling him his full name and confessing that Vincent Vanetti killed his father. Orko's guard calls him to come take a look, and he walks into the bootleg brewery. First thing he does is ask for a recipe, but Nero refuses. He then tries to pour a drink, but a guard shoots the bottle. Nero dismisses this and opens another. After gulping its contents, he pours the Don a glass. Unfortunately, they hear a sound coming from the barrels, so Corvo shoots at all of them, until liquor doesn't pour out of one of them. Volpe suddenly bursts out of this barrel with a machine gun and shoots sporadically. In the heat of this shootout, Angelo shoots and kills Nero for Don Orko to see. Corvo almost kills Angelo, but the Don punches him. He announces that Angelo is a real man for avenging his father. They take the cuffs off our boy, and he pours everyone a drink. They toast to the end of the Vanettis, and Angelo cleverly leaves Orko and Corvo to drink their liquor. Soon enough, the whole place becomes hazy, and they fall to the ground. Nero becomes the last thing the Don sees before passing out. They deliver him to Fango as promised, and the mobster tells Orko that he wants everything from him. That evening, Angelo and Corteo talk about his revenge on the roof, and they speculate that the fourth culprit must have sent the letter to Angelo out of remorse. They get interrupted when Nero comes up, so Corteo gives them some privacy. Both men then commend each other's acting skills. On the flip side, Fango appears before Don Orko's board of directors as the new Don, promising to change the name to Fango Family. He even renames the restaurant after himself, but promises to retain the cultivated dishes. The lasagna was a specialty that Orko liked, so Fango makes his mistress and a scared Tirotto bring in a special batch for the board. They hesitate to eat it until Fango forces Corvo to have a taste. He chases it with some wine and admits that it's delicious. The other members then dig in, and they too enjoy their meals. Corvo wishes that Don Orko was around to taste the lasagna, and Fango announces that they're eating all that's left of him. Soon enough, another member finds a tooth in his lasagna and the whole table begins to vomit. Fango just stands there laughing. Nero and the gang also have their own feast by the bunk beds, but Barbero ruins the mood by claiming that things will get harder from here on out. Nero tries to shush him, but Angelo adds that Fango's enemies have become their enemies too. He asks what our boy is implying, but Angelo continues eating without giving an answer. Theo begs Ronaldo to let her brother back into the family, but he's adamant about it. He announces he'll only let him back in if he submits to the Galassia's family. The next day, Fango treats Angelo and Nero to some pizza as a thank you for helping him take out Orko. He declares that he's now king, and his mistress breaks into a story of how Fango is related to Rudolph Valentino. He cuts her off to tell Nero that they're going after the Venetti family next, and that they're going to be partners for as long as they're alive. Nero tries to dispute this but ends up getting sent out to cause trouble. He doesn't even finish his drink before they leave, and when they get into the car, he laments to Angelo that Fango is going to use them. Our boy agrees and adds that they'll lose lawless heaven to him if they continue like this. Angelo then adds that they can only rest easy with the Venettis, but Frate and Ronaldo are the problem. Meanwhile, Frate is in a downtrodden mood when Ronaldo walks in. He tells the Venetti that he sees something in him that Nero doesn't have, and reminds him that he has to kill his brother for the family's sake. Ronaldo then slips him some drugs and tells him to get some shut-eye. On the flip side, a customer arrives at one of the Venetti bars seeking to get a taste of lawless heaven. Unfortunately, the barkeep tells him to find one of Fango's bars. At that moment, Nero walks in with an entire crate and convinces the barkeep to patronize them. Uncle Ganzo steps in not long after and punches the soul out of Volpe for standing in his way. He then pulls Nero aside for a chat on the roof. He tries getting him to come home by playing on his emotions. Nero just nods along, but it's obvious he doesn't believe a word his uncle is saying. Back home, Frate is anxious because they're now making half of what they used to. Ganzo blames Nero for taking the brewery, and Ronald uses this as a yardstick to point out Nero as a problem. He then reminds Ganzo that Don Galassia sees Nero as an enemy of the family, and that Frate is the head of the Venettis. Angelo and Nero are walking back that night, and they realize that they have to keep Corteo safe from Fango. Soon enough, FIO pulls up in a car and transports Nero to where he and Frate have a meeting. FIO wants things to return to the way they were, but Frate blames Nero's pride for the way things are. He screams that they can't fight against the Galassias, but it's all Nero thinks they should do. He tells his brother that he's Ronaldo's puppet, and this makes him flip out. Frate yells that Nero dying would return the peace of the family, and FIO slaps him into silence. She then tells Nero to work things out with Ronaldo and bursts into tears because she doesn't want her brothers killing each other. Afterwards, Nero tells Angelo that he plans to talk with Ronaldo. He advises against it. But Nero claims that Frate is still his brother. Angelo then tells him that he's going to introduce him to Luce soon. He later meets up with Volpe and asks for his help with Nero. The next day, Frate and Ronaldo are driving out of the compound when Ronaldo tells him about his forthcoming meeting with Nero. Suddenly, Angelo and Volpe shoot at both men, successfully taking out Ronaldo's arm. Volpe's arm bleeds out too, so Angelo pretends like he's parking to stop the bleeding. He then kills Volpe and sets him up. Frate finds him just as Angelo planned and declares to Uncle Ganzo that it's now kill or be killed. They hang Volpe's corpse from a bridge to send a message, and the newspapers go wild with reports of their family feud. Frate freaks out and tells Ronaldo that they should escape to Chicago. In turn, Ronaldo yells at him to get a grip. He then promises to sort things out and hands Frate more drugs. He heads back home to tell Fio that he wants to talk to Nero. She's skeptical, so Ronaldo goes into detail about how everyone in the family will end up dying if nothing is done, especially Fio's baby. He presents the baby as a bridge between the Galassias and the Venettis and tells her that it will help return things to normal. Nero and Angelo are sulking at the bar when Fango comes with his hyperactive attitude. He offers to help Nero in any way, as long as it's to cause havoc to their opposition. Just then, a phone call comes from FIO where she tells Nero that she wants to see him. The next day, Ronaldo waits with FIO, only for Angelo to come alone. He brings FIO some flowers with a note hidden inside it, but he tells Ronaldo that Nero will only be an hour late. After he leaves, Ronaldo arms himself and tries warming up to his wife. She asks if he's going to kill her brother, and while he's trying to lie to her, FIO shoots him dead. Ganzo rushes in to confirm Ronaldo's death, and Angelo swiftly retrieves the note he left for FIO. Nero and Angelo later approach a frantic Frate, and the boy bursts into tears because his father didn't acknowledge him. Angelo notices that something is off, so he walks up to Frate, gun in hand. He then retrieves Frate's weapon and hands it back to him, telling him to end their brother's feud. Immediately Angelo leaves, Frate tries to shoot his brother. Unfortunately, Nero kills him first. It turns out that Angelo had removed all of Frate's bullets. The next day, Fio gets on a train out of town and Angelo tells her to say that Frate killed Ronaldo. She's also to add that Nero killed Frate to prove his loyalty to Don Galassia. Mr. Delphi of the Federal Bureau of Prohibition came from Chicago to Lawless just to keep the peace. He announces to the press that he will put an end to the mafia's shenanigans and even uses Fango as an example. He mentions how Fango uses the island as a sanctum for evil and then moves on to name-drop Nero. His problem with him is his illegal production of Lawless Heaven. He declares that they will crack down on it to cut off Nero's income and then go after every last member of the mafia. The news gets to the Vanetti household, and despite Barbero's suggestion to cut down on moonshine production, Nero tells them to continue as usual. Meanwhile, Fango discusses with Gatto about the new officer and then quips that it's time to crush the Vanettis. Mr. Delphi is having his breakfast when the waiter recognizes him. He then shows the officer some bullet holes in his walls and declares that he's with him in his fight against violence. Just then, Angelo and Corteo sit on both sides of the officer. They slip him an envelope of money, but Mr. Delphi doesn't accept it. Angelo then mentions his 4-year-old daughter and leaves the money on his table. The officer still returns it to Corteo with a message that he'll end Nero Vanetti, no matter what. Corteo, in turn, chases after Angelo and slips the envelope into his pocket. As days go by, Inspector Delphi shuts down more establishments selling Nero's liquor. The family tells him about it, and he instructs them to shoot at his house, and if that doesn't work, to take him out. Angelo meets Nero in the garden just outside, and they joke about his bad driving habits. Angelo then brings up the fact that Fango will make a move soon and advises Nero to be more conscious of his movement. The Don sits up as he acknowledges that he's the only one left to protect his family. He then asks Angelo to escort him somewhere. Corteo pays Curato a visit and gets told that the prohibition laws will be raised soon. Apparently, Fango wants Serotto so he can have some good booze for when that happens. Unfortunately, Corteo passes on the deal. An anonymous man gives Mr. Delphi a tip while he's in the church's confession box. Word later gets to Nero and the others that the officer is investigating the Portline Lodge. He tells his men to take out Delphi's family, and Angelo supports him. They don't want some other officer replacing Delphi, rather they want him to call off the investigation himself. Later on, Angelo packs a bag while Corteo gives him an earful about the mission. Angelo then drops a wad of cash and tells Corteo to go to college. In a feat of rage, he throws the money at Angelo and yells that he was the one who dragged him into the mafia life. Mr. Delphi is about to send off his wife and daughter when a call comes, instructing him to call off the investigation. He refuses and sees his family to the car. The phone rings again, and before he can answer, the car explodes. Filled with dread, the officer rushes outside. He later falls to his knees when he finds out that his wife and daughter are still alive. Fango gets an unexpected phone call alongside some useful information. Soon enough, news spread about the mysterious halt of Mr. Delphi's investigation. That same day, Angelo and Barbero escort Nero on his way back from the lodge. Some stranger approaches him, eagerly wanting to join the Vanetti family. At that moment, Angelo notices some stationed men as they pull out machine guns. He alerts Nero just in time for him and Barbero to dodge. Unfortunately, the stranger eats so much lead that they could make more bullets out of his poop. They later deduce that Fango was behind the attack and that someone leaked Nero's whereabouts. Nero then asks that the traitor be fished out. That night, Fango tries to calm Corteo down, telling him that there's room for him in the Fango family. Unfortunately, that would give him away as the snitch. Fango then promises to get Nero next time and hands Corteo a drink alongside a promise of happiness. Back at the Vanetti house, Ganzo tries to see Nero but ends up getting Angelo. He continues to struggle, but Barbero shows up and reinforces the decision, leaving Ganzo no choice but to walk away. Later on, Barbero heads to the brewery and chats with Corteo. He tells him that they won't be coming by as often and that everyone is a suspect, including him. This puts Corteo on edge the whole time. Even on his way home, he's still scared, and it gets worse when he catches a glimpse of Gatto. The security is tight as usual when he gets to the Vanetti household. Angelo notices via a window as he squeezes a cigarette out of frustration. Meanwhile, Fango is also getting frustrated, seeing as Corteo hasn't given him any new info. Scusa suddenly comes visiting and tells Fango that he has been reinstated. He's surprised to see Serotto, but moves on to ask what Fango plans to do about Corteo. Soon enough, Serotto drives Corteo all the way up to Fango's house. The brewer is scared as he enters and finds out that Fango has no use for him. He gets handed a drink, and as he takes a swig, he realizes that it's his recipe. Apparently, Scusa had stolen the recipe from Delphi's investigation evidence. Fango then threatens Corteo with a bat, making him so scared that he continues walking backwards until he stumbles upon Scusa's corpse. Fango decides to have mercy and tells him to leave. Well, he adds that he'll tell Nero who the traitor is. Corteo couldn't have that, so he retraces his steps as Fango calls the Vanetti household. He then shatters a bottle of liquor on Fango's skull and stabs his neck with the remains. As blood pours from his neck, Corteo picks up the landline and continues to mindlessly smash in Fango's head. Corteo takes hurried steps towards the train station, but gets stopped by Nero's men before he can board. Angelo then gets the call in the dead of the night. The next morning, he approaches the garage where Corteo is already taking a beating. He asks Nero how he knew, and the Don points at Gatto. Apparently, Gatto knows that they're done for now that Fango is gone. Ganzo isn't satisfied with the way Corteo is being drilled, so he takes over and punches him with so much force that the chair falls over. Nero then walks out, leaving Angelo to follow soon enough. At his office, he tells him that Corteo has to die, and Angelo remains quiet until Barbero enters with news of a meeting with the Fango family. He's then sent out when Corteo comes up. Outside, he asks Tigre if Corteo has said anything, and gets a negative response. He even thinks Mr. Ganzo might kill him if things continue like this. Angelo walks home. Stewing in frustration, he lets it out by kicking his table when he gets inside. Just then, Carotto knocks on his door. As they sit, Angelo asks why Corteo killed Fango and gets told about how Fango betrayed him when he got the recipe from Scusa. In turn, Carotto asks why Corteo would hate Nero so much that he would team up with Fango. At that moment, our boy remembers the night Corteo threw his money back at him and then leaves without telling Carotto why. He scales the fence of Nero's building and wields a knife in preparation to save his friend. His plan is put off when he hears gunshots from the garage and sees Ganzo coming out with a bullet in his shoulder. Corteo had managed to escape, but Carmelo, one of Orco's men, lay dead on the floor. Nero instructs his men not to let Corteo escape, so Barbero locks down all the routes leading out of town. They search everywhere from train stations to bars. Meanwhile, Angelo revisits Corteo's former home and walks away after finding nothing. Back at the Vanetti household, Barbero expresses his distrust for Angelo. Nero dismisses this as he reminds him that Angelo and Corteo are childhood friends. That night, Angelo gets a call from Corteo. Apparently, he had been kidnapped by some people. He tells his friend that these people need Nero dead before this time tomorrow. He then reveals to Angelo the identity of the man that sent him a letter. After the call, Angelo stares at the letter and remembers when he asked Nero about his first murder. The next day, he heads into work and crosses paths with Del Toro. He then catches Nero juggling in the garden. He asks if there's any luck finding Corteo, and Nero answers negatively. Soon enough, he invites Angelo to join him for a meeting with the former big wigs to discuss the future now that Fango is gone. They check on Ganzo and update him on the search for Corteo. Afterwards, Nero, Barbero and Angelo head towards Don Vanetti's office. Nero tells his dad that he wants Barbero to serve as a family executive, and then introduces Angelo as a new recruit. Don Vanetti refers to him as the one with the booze. He later tells him to take care of Nero. The Don laments about losing Frate and making Fayot flee the country. He regrets choosing Ronaldo's side and admits that it only made things worse with Frate. As he pours blame on himself, Nero tries telling him that it's all in the past. Don Vanetti then tells his son that he did the right thing by killing Frate to get the Galacios off their backs. To signify the transfer of authority, the Don gives his seat to Nero and even kisses his hand. Everyone else does the same. The first line of action is the announcements. Barbero handles this and tells everyone that the island will now be used as a primary sales point since the Fango family has been incorporated into the Vanettis. He adds that they will expand the lodge building and finally start selling Lawless Heaven in Chicago. Vincent thinks it's too much of a risk because of the Galacias, but Nero plans to send Don Galacia a bottle before their playhouse is launched. Nero wants Angelo to go in his stead, but Barbero objects to this. He overrides him, and Angelo confirms that he can handle it. Later on, Tigre shares a drink with Nero and Angelo, and he tells the new Don that he'll do a good job. Our boy asks about Del Toro, and discovers that he has been with the former Don since the war. He went to prison for the Vanetti family and got out just 2 years back. This pushes Angelo to ask if he joined Nero on his first job, but Del Toro went to prison before that. Tigre leaves to ease himself, and Nero is basically out of it from drinking too much. At that moment, Angelo remembers Corteo's time limit and stares intently at the knife before him. Just then, Nero lifts his head and goes on about how he was surprised that Uncle Ganzo supported Angelo. After this, our boy quips that he needs to get home, but Nero stops him as he opens up about his first mission. Apparently, he couldn't shoot anyone that night, not even the kid that got away. That became his reason for throwing himself into his work. Angelo angrily asks if he now has the guts to kill that same kid, but doesn't wait for an answer before leaving. Just before Corteo's time runs out, Angelo knocks on a door and points his gun towards an emerging Uncle Ganzo. The man then confirms that he was the one who sent him the letter. Angelo arrives at the pier with a briefcase of Lawless Heaven and some Vanetti men on his tail. Some sailors carrying bags of provisions pass him by, and he notices Tigre. They talk in a corner, and Tigre confirms that Lawless Heaven will be a hit in Chicago. He then signals his colleague as they let Angelo get on the ship. As they sail off, one of the sailors takes off his hat, revealing that he's Corteo. Later on, Tigre informs Nero that Corteo didn't show up at the pier despite Barbero's suspicions. Uncle Ganzo just quietly sits there as he recalls his meeting with Angelo the night before. Our boy had asked why he sent the letter, and Ganzo explained Vincent Vanetti's obsession with finding Testa's surviving son. Ganzo lied to him about Angelo's death, though. When asked why he wanted the Vanettis dead, Ganzo admitted that he wants the power and everything good that comes with it. Angelo then told him that he needed his help to kill Vincent. Since they need each other, our boy promised to return after getting Corteo to safety. Ganzo tried to test him and found out that Angelo had put things in place to get his letter to Nero alongside Ganzo's name as the one who wrote it. Quietly, the old man handed Corteo over and told Angelo to find a place to lay low. Present day, Angelo and Corteo return to his former apartment, and his landlady immediately asks him to pay the rent he owes. Angelo doesn't mind her, so Corteo gives her more cash than she asked for. When they get upstairs, he sees a small pile of empty wallets, and Angelo explains that he was a shell of himself when he lived in the apartment. The next morning, Angelo makes them some coffee, but they have to drink from the only cup he has. Corteo then suggests that they go shopping for groceries and utensils. They do just that, and have an amazing meal courtesy of Corteo. That night, Angelo wakes up and takes a swig of Lawless Heaven while Corteo pretends to be asleep. They part ways after sharing a smoke the next day, and Angelo promises that he'll be back. Meanwhile, Vincent Vanetti talks to Nero about their playhouse and is informed that it's coming along nicely. He tries getting a cigar for himself, but his hands are shaking too much. Nero gets one for himself and Del Toro helps him with a light. They discuss how the Galacias continue to use them, and Nero declares that he'll definitely do something about it in time. Soon enough, talk of how long Angelo is taking comes up. Tigra defends him, claiming that he's trying out the women, and Ganzo backs him up. Fortunately, Angelo shows up mid-conversation to clear their doubts. Barbero is the first to ask why he took so long, and our boy tells them that he was trying out different liquors. He declares that nothing in Chicago can top Lawless Heaven, and even Don Galacia and Strega, his underboss, confirmed it. Ganzo and Angelo share knowing looks and meet up later. There, Ganzo tells him that Vincent will be leaving his mansion for the first time in weeks to attend the Playhouse launch. He then hands our boy a gun and some extra bullets, telling him to use them wisely. 2 days before the launch, Tigra, Nero and Ganzo stare at the works of their hands. Apparently, Don Galacia himself will be attending the launch. Nero is worried about those still loyal to Fango, so Uncle Ganzo offers to take care of security. Meanwhile, Barbero tracks down a sailor and bribes him until he admits to seeing Corteo at the pier. They then call Angelo to the Vanetti house, where Barbero threatens him at gunpoint. He asks whether he helped Corteo escape, and Angelo's silence is deafening. Suddenly, they hear a banging on the door, followed by one of the guards dragging Corteo inside. Our boy is so surprised that his eyes grow wide. Corteo had woken up one night to have a drink. He noticed multiple bottles of liquor by his bedside and packed them all into a bag. On his way out, the landlady calls him and advises him to stay away from Angelo. He shuts her up by telling her that Angelo is his brother forever. He then heads to the sea and for some reason dumps all of the liquor into it. The next day, the landlady knocks to alert him of a call from Angelo. He rushes to pick up, only to find Ganzo warning him that he has to return to save Angelo's life. So he came running. Barbero drags him and points the gun at Corteo instead, drilling him about his reason for wanting to kill Nero. Apparently, he just wanted to save Angelo from the mafia life. Barbero tries to implicate Angelo by any means, so Corteo points out that he views Angelo as a threat to his position. This pushes Barbero to bitch slap him, but Nero stops him after that. He then retrieves his gun, points it at Corteo, and stops halfway through shooting him. Nero walks up to Angelo only to hand him the gun. He leaves our boy with instructions to kill Corteo, and everyone else clears the room. The first question he asks is why Corteo came back. His friend admits that Ganzo mentioned that he was in danger. Angelo grits his teeth as Corteo claims that the Vanettis won't bother him anymore and smiles as he accepts his fate. He tells Angelo his last goodbye and reminds him that they'll always be brothers. Angelo then takes the kill shot, and a sad smile stains his lips. The family gathers the next morning and bombard Angelo with questions. They ask about Strega and how receptive the Galacias were towards their liquor. Ganzo soon notices that Angelo didn't get any sleep, and they all just decide to move cautiously. Right on cue, the Galacias arrive in a convoy of cars. Don Galacia shakes hands with Nero and dismisses any bad blood concerning Ronaldo's death. The Don then introduces his nephew, Strega, and leaves the youngsters to familiarize. Vincent comes out soon enough to exchange pleasantries with the Don, and they laugh about him relinquishing duties to Nero. Nero then distracts them with a fresh bottle of Lawless Heaven, but his dad begins to cough up some blood. Later on, Don Galacia tries to poach Angelo, but our boy declares that he can't leave. The Don thinks Nero is bound to mess up soon enough, so he tells Angelo to think bigger. That night, Angelo meets with Uncle Ganzo to go over the plan for the next day. Ganzo describes Vincent's room to be the only bulletproof one without a knob on the outside. He plans to kill off Del Toro, who will be by the door, thus forcing Nero to open it from the inside. Angelo is to let Galassia escape and then kill off Vincent and his son. Our boy peels out the letter Ganzo wrote to him and asks him to add his name so they'll seem like enemies. Ganzo was there but didn't shoot anyone. Vincent was the one colluding with the Galassias and Testa found out, so Vincent killed him. Angelo leaves after retrieving his letter and Strega enters immediately after. It turns out that he has been colluding with Uncle Ganzo without the Don's knowledge. On the flip side, Barbero warns Nero to take Angelo off the security detail for the playhouse. He thinks our boy resents them for what they made him do to Corteo. Nero feels differently, so he declares that he'll give Angelo something to live for. He then heads into his father's room where he signals Del Toro to give them some alone time. Vincent openly regrets killing his best friend, Testa Lagusa, and wonders if he could have done things differently. Nero then tells him that nothing but the Vanetti name matters. Angelo gets home and pours him and late Corteo a drink. He gulps down his glass and declares that everything ends tomorrow. D-Day finally comes and paparazzi flood the playhouse. Vincent Vanetti arrives and declares to Nero that the playhouse is indeed beautiful. Afterwards, Don Galassia makes an appearance. All this while, Barbero throws suspicious glances in Angelo's direction. Vincent talks about the playhouse being his dream and Ganzo admits that he envies him. He adds that everything will be secure when they smooth things over with the Galassias and that Testa Lagusa would understand. Angelo separates from the other guards under the guise of looking around. Barbero continues with the suspicious looks. The play then begins with the mayor of Lawless giving a shout-out to Vincent Vanetti. The former Don enjoys the spotlight for a while and sits back down to share a toast with Don Galassia. Del Toro stands outside the door and soon gets stabbed by two of Galassia's men. He manages to break the neck of the first one and then stabs the other to death. He's about to warn Vincent when Angelo rushes in to finish the job. Unfortunately, Barbero literally catches him red-handed. They take our boy to the basement where they tie him up and sink a dagger into his shoulder. The only thing he reveals is that his colleagues are after Nero as they speak. He then directs Barbero to get the letter from his pocket, and after reading through, he asks Angelo who sent it. Tigre panics and offers to go call Nero, but Barbero makes him fetch Uncle Ganzo instead. On the way down, Ganzo instructs Tigre to fetch Nero, seeing as he's the Don, and such decisions should be left to him. He meets Barbero in the basement and acts like it's the first time he's ever seen the letter. Barbero then asks about Tigre and Ganzo tells him that he's fetching Nero. Barbero believes that the new Don would never kill Angelo. This puts him in a frenzy, and he declares that he will purge the family of the devil that is Angelo Lagusa. He pulls out his gun to kill our boy, but Ganzo quickly blows his brains out. Angelo then declares that things are going perfectly. Meanwhile, Tigre fetches Nero, and by the time they get downstairs, Ganzo pretends like Angelo killed Barbero and got away. He hands Nero the letter showing the names of everyone Angelo plans to kill. Just then, Strega shows up and together they plant the idea that our boy is going to snipe Don Vanetti from the opposite room. Tigre and Nero immediately run there while Angelo knocks on Vincent's door. The Don is hesitant, but Galassia opens a way. He's rather pleased when Angelo points a gun at Vincent because he thinks it's part of the play. Angelo then reveals who his father is and tells Vincent that he will take everything from him. Surprisingly, Angelo shoots Don Galassia and continues shooting until he's dead. This causes a ruckus and everyone exits the playhouse. Meanwhile, Strega thinks he's been betrayed, so he kills Ganzo on the spot and orders the death of all Vanettis. As a shootout ensues, Nero runs to his father. A weakened Vincent sweats and coughs up blood as he tells Nero that everything's over. Right in Nero's arms, he gives up the ghost, pushing the young Don to an anger like never before. Nero takes an elevator up to where Angelo is being held, and on the way up, he wonders why he trusted him in the first place. Inside, Angelo refuses to eat, and Strega's men wonder why he's being kept alive. Someone knocks at the door at that moment, and one of the guards opens the door. He gets taken out immediately. Nero then punches the lights out of the other guard and stares intently at Angelo. Our boy is unfazed and even smiles when he eventually looks Nero in the eyes. Earlier that day, the feud continues as Strega pulls in Galassia men in swarms. They continue to spray bullets at each other while Nero and Tigre dissect the condition of things. Mid-conversation, a call comes through telling Nero to go to room 501 in Hotel Lawless. Tigre asks if he's really going, and apparently he is. He even advises Tigre to take the others and leave the island because God forbid they die in the same place Fengo did. Tigre almost gets in his feelings as Nero walks away. He then washes it down with some more liquor. Back to the present, Nero has Angelo tied up and seated next to him in the back seat of a car. The driver is none other than a pissed-off Serotto. He goes off about how Corteo never wanted to join the mafia even when he tried bribing him with so much money. Tears come to his eyes as he remembers that Corteo never even got to be with a woman. He yells as he asks why Angelo is alive and Corteo is dead. This is where Nero interrupts the youngster and tells him to pipe down. Sirotto then wipes his tears and takes a swig of some liquor. Nero asks who gave Angelo the letter and he easily rats Ganzo out. This informs the new Don that he was being deceived on all sides. Angelo confesses to all his murders, leaving Nero to wonder why he's the only one left alive. Our boy then reveals that he had to get close to him so he could kill his father. Nero brings up the excuse of Angelo not needing him alive on the day of the play, and our boy makes it clear that he wanted the Venettis to suffer a fate worse than death. He smiles as he quips about how unfortunate it was that Vincent died so soon. This pushes Nero to press his pistol against Angelo's skull. Unfortunately, our boy doesn't give the slightest reaction. Instead, he urges Nero to kill him. The young Don angrily pistol whips Angelo's head and Sirotto starts the car. Meanwhile, Tigre tries getting what's left of the Venettis out of Lawless. They get to the port, but the Galacias have been lying in wait. They set their floodlights on the Venettis, and Tigre opens fire. He tries to cover for the others, but runs out of bullets soon enough. It becomes a bloodbath as multiple gunshots come his way from all directions. Strega later stands beside all the corpses of the Venetti soldiers and quips that Galacias have the reach to find Nero. The next day, Sirotto stops for some gas and then crosses the street to fetch breakfast. Before he can return, Nero drives off and Sirotto gets punched by the store owner. Strega had saved Angelo's life after the whole Playhouse debacle, and later showed up to question him. He wanted to know why he killed Don Galacia, and our boy admitted to wanting his revenge on the Venettis. Strega realized that Angelo manipulated everyone but thanked him for speeding up his plans to become the new Don. Nero and Tigre had fled to the island that night and had a shootout with multiple pursuers. Angelo reminded Strega that prohibition would be lifted soon, making the island less than useless. The Don wanted him to kill Nero, but Angelo didn't care about anything anymore. Present day, and Nero takes a tied-up Angelo into a bar where he has a single dinner. He then smokes a cigarette and gives Angelo the chance to smoke one too. They head up the path leading to the ocean and light fire in the forest. There, Nero asks why Angelo didn't leave the city, and our boy admits that he wanted to see his revenge play out. Unfortunately, he felt nothing after all of it. This infuriates Nero afresh, and he presses Angelo against the wall, yelling that he should have just killed him alongside his family. Angelo lashes out too, claiming that Nero should have also shot him 7 years ago. This breaks the Don's spirit. He remembers how he had been in Angelo's house but was too weak to pull the trigger on a young boy. He lets him sleep and cuts him loose the next day. The two of them stick together though. Nero even lets Angelo drive, knowing full well that he's a bad driver. They spend the next couple of days on the road, up until they arrive at the ocean. Both men walk along the shores, and Angelo admits that he didn't kill Nero because he didn't want to. The Don then lets go a few steps ahead of him before shooting him. He gets into the car and drives in the opposite direction, thus crossing paths with the agent the Galacias had sent after him. He simply smiles as he stares at a can of beans and continues to drive into the horizon. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video.